Da, 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 da. Just check a couple things. You might want to skip a couple minutes if you're watching a recording. Should probably change the title of this, but whatever. Alright, we're just going to get started. Actually, I should probably post this in my Discord. Da, 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 da. I'll post in here as well. I want to check a video real quick. Replace the MFC. Oh my god, that guy's got a coke nail. Holy cow. Look at this guy's fingernail. Oh, it must be a woman. Maybe? I don't know. So that's awesome, but like this nail is really gross looking. That one's gross looking. That one's gnarly. Ugh. Alright. Yeah. Huh, you nailed it. I like that. I like that guy. I am just checking. I was watching a video. I just don't remember if okay, yeah, they use a little bit of flux. They're putting solder on, reballing it. Okay, they do put some. Okay, they only put a little bit. So my theory is that when I've done this in the past, oh my god, that's a replication. When I've done this in the past, my theory is that I used too much flux, which caused a gap between the PlayStation and the PlayStation mainboard. Which is this guy right here. I got some lifted pads here, but that shouldn't be an issue. I'm going to put some flux on this and then clean it up real quick, and then we'll get moving on to actually putting the new chip on. I'm going to do this with hot air. I got some other projects coming up as well that I'll probably stream. I've been working with some of the Hacksheet devs with the NES Classic, and potentially gearing up to do like a NAND swap, so putting a bigger NAND chip instead of like just doing an SD mod, actually putting a larger chip in, and then expanding the partition and doing all that fun stuff. So that'll be pretty cool. And might offer it as like a service, but I don't know who would want to do that over just like an internal SD card, other than compatibility reasons. But even still, like the biggest NAND chip you can find in a TSOT48 package is like 16 or 32 gigs, and it's just like that's not really worth it. It's just not a lot of storage. So I know that I think like these two dots here are like the data lines, as well as some of these. So as long as like the data is not data pins aren't lifted, we should be okay. Ah, that's extremely hot. Why does this smell like pickles? For some reason, the flux burning smells like pickles right now. Is that like what is it, an aneurysm when you smell toast? That's pretty clean. It's not perfect, but nothing's perfect, is it? Alright, I had a cloth around here. There it is. I need to buy more microfiber cloths. These things are um, everyone likes using Q-tips for getting like flux off boards with isopropyl alcohol. I don't. It's good for getting like the bulk of the stuff off, but I use this microfiber cloth and it really does a good job at getting a lot of this crap off. That's pretty clean. I just have to find the other chip that I was going to use. I guess I have a lot of them here. This little upgrade I'm doing right now, it should have. Oh, did I already write it? This little upgrade I'm doing right now should have 32 gigs instead of the 16. I can source other chips pretty easily, so I'm assuming I can do this once. That means it should be able to do it somewhat reliably. Obviously, that's not a guarantee, but we've all got to start somewhere. Yeah, this is a pretty clean chip. Okay. So I'm going to heat up this board a little bit just to get some, when I put some flux down, to actually have it liquefy. and I'll spread it around, and I'll try to line this up as best I can. That's going to be the hardest part, is lining it up. But I think what I might do is I might put some tape down and try to match the pins as close as I can. So that's all the flux I'm doing. I usually do a whole lot more. I've already flashed this chip. So it should just be a matter of putting it in place, heating it up, and then Bob's your dad's brother. Alright. Yeah, this is going to be pretty impossible to actually tell, because my microscope is on a stand, so I can't like go at it from the side or anything. What I can do is just try to line it based on these pads as close as possible. And hopefully it'll like fall into place. Here goes nothing. But assuming the flux works properly, it should just kind of wiggle into place. I think the next step, if I can at least get this to where it's booting up to the point where I can plug it into a PC, I could attach UART to it and see what's going on there. It's moving a little bit, it's moving into place. Saw it shift there a little bit. God, this board is taking a beating. So I'm just going to do this for another minute, hopefully to get all of the pins connected. back it off now. Slowly start to cool it down. It's a little bit more centered on the camera, I guess. I kind of moved my whole setup around, so getting this centered on camera is kind of hard. For some reason, it doesn't match quite up to the actual lens that I have on my eyepieces. So we'll let that cool down, and then I guess we'll boot it up. We could look at it from the side too, and try to zoom in on the pins and see if they're connected, and just tell at a first glance from the edges if it's properly aligned. Clean up my desk here. So we're going to bring it to the edge of the table. And then we're just going to try to get a view on this chip. I need to clean this back off first. This is sticky. Still pretty warm. And those balls are soldered. They all look straight. That's a CPU. I was worried for a second. Seems to be aligned. The entire CPU like that? Yeah. Well, you can see the RAM. This is kind of cool angle. Yeah, so yeah, looks pretty aligned. I guess the next step would be to plug it in and test it. How's it going, P-Snap? In order to do that, I need an HDMI cable, which doesn't seem to be readily available. Pulling out of my test bench here. And yeah, I'm doing all right. Started a new job about a month ago. It's been going well. I left the Mod My Classic server to kind of get my head off of things, off of all the drama, and I feel better about that, so. Kind of don't like this thing. Alright. capture device I have it works, and it was actually pretty cheap for what it is. HDMI capture devices seem to be pretty expensive. So it works, but it's not the greatest. So I'm plugging the USB now. I don't get a light on it. I am not on a different server for PlayStation stuff. I have my own Echo 10 Discord. I'll put an invite in the chat if you're not already on it. Invite people. Discord sometimes. I've been trying to get more people onto my Discord, just because I would like to kind of curate the discussions a little bit more. But also I put all my stream stuff on there, and I feel like kind of associating with specific entities or kind of going for like a affiliation or something like that is just not really the way to go about things. So I started my own Discord a while ago. There's about 100 people in it. It's not very big, but yeah, it doesn't seem to be powering up. At all. I'm going to check some volties. Volties are small voltages. Do I have my other camera set up? I guess I could. Boom. My desk is a mess right now, so do not give me any shit. Print this USB thing. That'll work. Alright, let's do that. Let's add a video capture device. Webcam. Ah! That's scary. There, you got a little bit of chat in there. So, if I can get this angle more. Thank you, Logitech, for that wonderful message. There we go. I don't think my webcam is picking up audio. Okay. So, I'm going to check voltages here. We've got this, and we've got this. Yeah, that's the state that this is in. The rest of my office I cleaned up recently, so it's kind of messy again, but hey, what do you want from me? Put a light there. Ooh. Hey Blaze, yeah, I got over the flu this weekend. I had some time to recover, so definitely feel better. Thanks for checking in on that. Hmm. No voltage over USB. I wonder if this is just not a good board. Oh. Huh. I'm wondering why this isn't working, right? Switch back to the microscope for a second. So I was wondering why this board isn't working, this PlayStation Classic. And I'm looking at it, and I was gonna check some voltages. I checked, USB here. Um, this is the board that I actually did the video for disabling the current limiters on it. Doesn't look like it really did any other work other than the eMMC here, which seems to be on right. I did this, which I don't want to talk about, but that shouldn't be affecting anything. That circuit is completely separate from this. Haven't touched the RAM, haven't desoldered anything, so that should be fine. And then I see this. That is, that's not good. That's no bueno. It should look at a little something like that and have that chip. So, I think this is the board. This is my original board, so I don't necessarily want to ruin this one. And just to check, I'm going to check the pins on the side of it. Yeah, I mean that looks. So this is the original board. Oh my god, this is throwing my head through a loop. This is the original board. You can kind of see the separation there between the chip and the board, but you can also see the pins there. I think I did this one right because this is the one that I just did. And it's going to be a little bit shinier because I used flux. But that separation is about the same and the pins line up properly. So I think what I need to do is source this chip that goes here off of another board that I have somewhere, because I don't really want to solder the eMFC again, because that's kind of a pain in the butt. But I also don't know if I have another board laying around, because I did just clean up a bunch of things and I threw out. So then my only option is to go and grab it off my good board, which I don't necessarily want to do. Oh, sorry, I didn't have my microscope plugged in. I really should get like an HDMI switch or something. My bad, I'm sorry. Ignore everything I just said. No? Microscope, anything? Picture? I'm still trying to get my streaming setup working, like, consistently. OBS. Just find the damn thing. Anyway, I'll show you on the webcam, and then I'll mess around with that a little bit more. So this is either my original board or it is another board I had. There's this chip right here. That is the PMU, or the power management unit. It basically handles regulation of currents and voltages for the CPU and other components on the board. It happens to be missing on this board that I pulled out and actually soldered the chip onto. So I might have to sacrifice this other board unless I can find in the next minute that chip on another board. But I think I threw some old PlayStation boards away when I did the cleaning recently. So that's fun. So my project space does not have any on it. I have a bunch of shells, and I have like I think I have 8 PlayStation Classic controllers now. Just like laying around. Oh, here we go. Here's a board. Ow. I could probably sacrifice it off of one of these. We're going to try this capture device one more time. I really just need to get it like a PCI Express card and then run my microscope straight to that and have it dedicated to that. And then use this one for anything else. I was using a different computer for streaming a while ago, and it was actually on my workbench, but I've now dedicated my workbench specifically towards classic PCs. So I've got a Pentium 2 there, I've got a Pentium 2 there, I have a Pentium 4 here, it's water cooled, and then I have my 486 that my dad bought in 1993. So it's a year older than me. I've got those, and I've been working on those as well. So we're going to power this up, and we're going to see if this video is going to get captured. Do that. Don't get a red light on this one. Let's try the other one. Right. Okay, we're taking it off of this board because I had already removed the micro USB connector here. But I don't know why this other board won't boot. Does this Genesis board boot? Is this micro USB cable bad? Like, what the hell's going on here? I think I'm going crazy. I think that's it. I think I'm just nuts. So this board works. Does this? I can't test that. I think I tried to replace the eMMC chip on this one already, so. Oh. I got a connection. MediaTek USB port COM3. So this one won't boot up. It has no red light or orange light, so it's not going to boot. But the power chip works on it, so I might, because I think I tried to replace this already. Yeah, I did. So we're going to steal the power chip off this one. I'm going to try to get the microscope working again. Yeah, this thing is not even enumerating.
Universal serial bus, more like universal serial bust.
HD capture. Imaging devices. It's not popping up as an imaging device. It's part of the problem. Oh, it shows up as a webcam. So,
This cable just going to shit again. Yep, it's just the cable. Yep, it's the cable. Alright. That's crappy. Okay, there we go. We're going to look at this board again. Okay, yeah, so this one I definitely tried to solder before, because if you look, there's no gap between the board and the chip, but there is between this board and this chip, versus a board which I thought was good. It must be good. I think this board is good, but look at that separation there. So I'm pretty sure it's really just a matter of putting this chip back on that I was showing off that was not there. So we're going to clean this up first. Where's my cloth? There it is.
the problem is I just lose track of time.
I think the last time I did a stream a couple days ago on replacing the chips. That was the first one I had done in probably about a month, maybe more. I just can't get to things like I used to. And I've been doing some other stuff. I've been playing my Switch a bit. I've been relaxing a bit more, which is always very, very nice. Where is my solder wick? There it is. But yeah, I've just been taking some time and haven't really been working on any new products or anything like that. I'm a little bit here and there, but nothing too much. Watching a lot of movies, TV, and relaxing. The reason I'm soldering this chip back on instead of taking the other one off and all that is I'd probably have to reball it. So I would rather have to deal with this chip, which has a lot less pins and they're a lot bigger. And it's a lot easier to line up than the alternative. Except this is lead-free solder, so that's not very nice. Well, the holidays have thrown a wrench into everything, obviously, as they tend to do. Well, capacitor came off there. We can bump that back. Just like that. Okay, that's pretty clean. Might have lost some capacitors there at one point. Oh no, those are not populated. Never mind. No big deal. It always amazes me looking at a circuit board, and I am not a like board engineer or whatever you call it. I am not good at like
circuit board design at all. But it does always amaze me how many components are like missing off of a board, like a production board, and like why those don't like here there's components missing um, in this area.
but those look like just like decoupling capacitors or something. I don't know. Or filter caps? No, filter cap would be a round one. I told you I'm not very good. Okay, so that's pretty clean. And get right up in there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this chip off of this board with flux, healthy amount to boot. So yeah, my Discord, I guess we can talk about PlayStation Classic stuff. There's been discussion about classic gaming, classic PC gaming stuff. I kind of changed from having PlayStation Classic and Nintendo Classic channels to just doing like Nintendo and PlayStation and Xbox. Um, kind of generalize it a bit more since the channel, the server is not that busy. Um, and since I kind of left the home of my Classic, I forcibly got booted out recently. Well, left and then came back and then forcibly booted out. I'm kind of looking for a new home to just kind of talk about stuff. So. So let that cool down for a second. Taking a look at this. See, that's what I love about this microscope is I can just go, boom, there. I can see everything. I can inspect it. And this is not big. Like, I could go even more, but these are not very big pins. Just to kind of give you the scale of things. I have this little ruler here. Each one of those hash marks is a millimeter. So, yeah, the pitch on this is what, 0.5 millimeter? Can't even tell. Sorry. It's probably very disorienting. Yeah, it's about 0.5 mm pitch. Yeah, almost exactly actually. So this is yeah, it's very small stuff. It's fun though. I couldn't really do soldering like this, or I didn't really know what I was doing until I got this microscope, and I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense now. So I'm gonna try to reball this like as best as possible. I don't think I have a stencil for a 1/2 inch pitch or a 0.5 mm pitch. Let me check real quick actually. Stencils. Hard no fun. Stencils like someone. Let's see. I've got 6 mm, 0.6, 0.6. Oh, I do have 0.5. There's another 0.5. That one's smaller. Oh, we'll take a look. So if I get my solder stencil and I put it on top of here, does that line up? No. um, no, it does not. I probably don't have a stencil that's small. Unless this EMMC one. Yeah, that's like the closest I can get. Which that's like the pitch, that's right, but I don't have one. These are for EMMC, so I don't have anything that's like just a grid like that. So we'll have to make do. I'm basically just going to take my iron and smooth this out because there's some. That's pretty well stuck onto that table. There's some here that are flat. And I'm just going to apply solder to them and see what happens. I actually wonder if. Okay, so those points are just power rails. No, don't flip. Oh, shoot. Oh well. Didn't really want to clean up this space, but I guess I'm going to have to now. That's not really working. Let's try. That's really not going to work, especially if I don't have flux on it. This is the worst reballing in history, but I don't care. These are somewhat even, right? Like, that's close enough. Probably isn't, but whatever. This is where you really need 3 hands. That's about as good as we're getting, so whatever. Alright. Cloth, cloth, cloth. Because that does ring a bell now. Like, I was wondering why when I plugged the PlayStation into the computer after I put the chip on, I was like, why isn't this powering up? Normally it, like, even gives me, like, a USB, like, serial port or something. Something to let me know it's live. And it just wasn't working. Oh. The thing that controls power is gone. That would do it. So again, we're going to try to just put this on without having like much solder balls at all on it. This is much harder with eMMC because there's way more many chips on it. That's a little bit more sensitive. So it's hard to line up on an eMMC chip. I'm really messing up the alignment on this. Again, in an ideal world, I would reball this. It's 0.25 millimeter pitch. But I don't have a stencil like that, so this could potentially cause problems too, so we'll take a look at that after this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press down on this chip. Just a little bit. So it's not that. Now we play the waiting game. That doesn't look straight. No, that's not my handiwork. That's a little too good. Power, 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 power. Can't really see because of the flux. Yeah, you can't even really tell because there's not like any gap on there. Which is kind of what I expected, to be honest, but as long as it plugs in and gives me a red light, I don't really care. But it is definitely off kilter. We'll see. Worst case scenario, I have to take the chip off, or I have to flash a new chip and try that, because I think I have like one more. So, board. I'm just going to plug in USB for now and see if the power light comes on. See if there's any voltage going to this thing, which I don't believe there is, because there's no light. So we'll check here. We'll check 0.015 volts, which is not
nominal. Just make sure that there's 5 volts coming here. Yep. Dead. Um, dead. That's getting half a volt. 3.8, which could be the 3.3 line. Oh, you know what? I never checked that short that I had. That could be doing it in. I never fixed that guy. Oh no, it's not shorted anymore. That fixed itself. Yeah, I'm gonna have to reball this, so I'm gonna have to find a 0.25 millimeter pitch um, thing. But it looks like that this chip, this eMMC chip, is actually properly on there. So I would really, really, really like to get this working. So if I have to fix that, I will have to fix that. But that will have to be at a later time where I can find the right stencil. So it might be a week or two. This is very hopeful. This is the best job that I've done soldering on this thing, just to show you again what it kind of looks like from the side. That's the CPU. Where am I oriented here? There we go. That looks very, very good. If I can even zoom in. It's a little hard to tell, but those balls are on there and they are sandwiched properly. It looks like they are flowed onto the board. So, assuming I have the alignment right, which I'm fairly certain I do since all of those are lined up, um, I really just need to get that PMU working. So, yeah, that's gonna be it for now. Um, you get to see me. Uh, there we go. So we put the chip on properly. I noticed that I used the wrong board, of all things. That it didn't have the regulator to actually convert the 5 volts from USB to 3.3 and the 1.8 for the V core. Um, so I have to go and reball that, which means I need to get the right pitch solder stencil, which shouldn't be very hard. My next stream will probably be next week, maybe. I gotta order some flash chips for the Genesis. I think we're gonna do the Nintendo first, but the Genesis is basically the same kind of board layout, so we'll be replacing that chip, um, which is the storage chip on the SNES and NES Classic. It only comes with a 256 or 512 NAND flash chip on it. We're going to be trying to go for, I think, 8 gigs or 16 gigs. Um, Again, it's not as much storage as you'd see from doing a um, micro SD card install with the super storage, which you can find at echo10.io. Um, but it'll be interesting to see if we can actually replace it and then expand the partitions, because that might be a way to do internal storage on the Genesis. The Genesis is, I've been kind of looking at what it would take to do a mega storage, is I've been calling it basically. Um, right here is the USB hub chip. Um, this chip is uh, small, to say the least, um, and it is a 4-port USB chip. They're only using 2 ports, one for the uh, first player, one for the second player. That's all it's being used for. Um, so there are 2 ports available on here. There's 4 pins that we can use on the data lines. Problem is laying it out is a bit of a bitch. Let's go back to the microscope and we'll just take a look at that real quick. Assuming the microscope stays connected. So, that chip is big on screen. So that's the chip right there. That's the USB hub. We have data lines coming off of it. You can see 2 here. And then there's some that route under the chip and then onto the underside here that go to this port. But we have, I think it's this pin and this pin, and then the next pair, or maybe it's separated by one and then it's the next pair after that. These are the extra 4-port data lines. You could just connect a USB port to those and solder them. The problem is that actually soldering to these is pretty dang small. If we bring out the ruler again, we go to our centimeter scale here. That's, I don't know what pitch that is. It's probably some imperial unit. But you can see how small those pins are. So compared to soldering on the NES and SNES, where it was like just on the underside of the board, and there's these big, nice test pads that they give you, this would be actually soldering to this chip directly, which could potentially destroy the chip if you don't know what you're doing. And then you render your front ports basically unusable. That's really the only way of adding any sort of internal storage. There's no eMMC or anything like that, so it's either replacing this flash chip here or soldering onto the USB hub. The other problem with this is that this USB hub is limited in power, just like the PlayStation Classic was, by this chip right here, this 4903. It's kind of the same configuration as the PlayStation Classics. I believe it's this resistor here that actually controls the current limiting. It's a little bit more gracious in what it gives you. I think it's something like 500 milliamps for both ports. Again, that's for both ports, so expect the controller to be using 50 to 100 maybe, and then the rest being reserved for the second port. So while it's not a big deal, I would still recommend people like disabling that if they were going to install something like a mega storage or something like that. And this, again, you can just, wherever that was, I could probably do a video on it, but basically you would just be shorting this resistor here between here and ground, because this looks like it's a signal pin and this is the ground. But yeah, so current requirements are an issue, and then also the power for this chip is, I believe, on this pin here, and then wherever ground fills, which is here. So to make a board that would probably fit this, it would probably have to be a flex PCB, which I've never done before. They're more fragile, but they are much thinner. But they're also a little bit harder to solder to, because if you use the wrong amount of heat, you kind of separate the layers and then you kind of destroy the board. So getting, and then also getting that at the right pitch and having people solder like here, that would be a real pain in the butt So, because they would have to solder here and here, probably if you wanted to do a second port here and here, they would have to get power off of here or some other pin, uh, maybe here, and just making a board that either like wraps around like that or wraps around like this is fairly complex, and I haven't really put all that much work into it. So that's kind of the status of the mega storage or lack thereof. Um, and like I said earlier, I started a new job, so um, I've been focusing on that primarily, and also focusing on relaxing, which has been really nice. So that's it for tonight. I am going to go start making some food. My handy dandy watch right there, and have a good night. Um, join the Discord if you haven't; it's in the chat. Um, and yeah, game on.